Observing emotions is the topic that I picked for today's video. Welcome to Remind Us. My name's Aiden. I picked that topic because it's a little bit personal right now in my life, and I had several friends comment to me that this would be a good topic because many people struggle with emotions and handling them right. How do you handle emotions right? Is there such a thing as handling them right? I'm not sure, but I know what I do with them, and that's really where I want this video to go. More that I was young too. I have felt devastated because of my feelings towards somebody that were not answered, or worse yet, abused. Like, a person knew I had feelings towards them, and instead of being honest with me, they would just take advantage of that. As in, they knew that every time they needed something, wanted something, I would jump up because I wanted to help them. I wanted that person to be happy. I wanted that person to notice me. So naturally, I'm going to feel inclined to go a bit above and beyond to, make that person happy. I tried to look in depth at that because I wanted to understand that. I didn't think something was wrong with me, but I did not realize that I felt emotionally devastated, maybe, or at the very least used. And then eventually, when I finally realized, wow, they're using me, then I started feeling down and depressed. And that's the funny thing. I could already distinguish then that I was feeling things and I was thinking things, but they were not necessarily the same thing, but they always came together. I felt a certain way and I started thinking a certain way directly in line with how I felt. That's how it appeared. So I investigated that for myself because I wanted to figure out, why is that so? Why is it that I think I feel something towards somebody? I have to make them feel good so they notice me. And if they don't, or they start taking advantage of it, but never answering my feelings, reciprocating them, like feeling the same way towards me, I had to step out of that. And I didn't know how at the time. I just thought feeling miserable about myself, and eventually also towards the person that I thought I had feelings for, feeling miserable towards them. Like, oh, if I can't love them, let me just hate them instead so I don't feel so hung up on them. I'm noticing we all do that one way or another. If we can't have what we want, we will paint lies over our own mind, our own feelings, essentially. Like, no, my feelings are wrong. Here is why I hate this person now. What he's doing now is creating an inner conflict. Your feelings feel towards something or someone, but your thinking is going to do the opposite. I hate that person because they don't love me the way I love them. I hate that person because they always ask me for help. I'm always jumping up to help them, but they never do the same thing in return to me. See, that kind of thinking, I've been there too. I've said it before, and I needed to look at that. So I'm gonna make this video about that somewhat, and I'm still going to throw in personal short stories that are directly applicable to this. This video is not intended to be about polyamory, but it is also part of this particular video because in polyamory, you have the feelings of several people, and it becomes difficult very often. Sooner or later, something will pop up in your little group of polyamorous partners, and throw everything out of balance, or it appears to be out of balance at the very least, and that's where the problems begin again. So, the first example that I want to actually talk about is actually my personal look at life. And I'm going to make this example not necessarily about a second person, because I want this example to focus on feeling in particular. That example is actually an amusement park, a place with roller coasters, thrill rides, a place where you feel more or less in heaven. Like you're absolutely ecstatic when you're on these, high speed roller coasters going upside down a couple times, G forces, acceleration, deceleration. When you go to an amusement park, especially when you're young and it's all very new to you, you experience that park. You're gonna feel certain ways in the park, like exhilarated. You might even say you feel in love, but now you're not necessarily in love with a person. You're more or less feeling love in that park in yourself, because it's kind of difficult to say I love this roller coaster the same way you would say that to your partner. I love my wife, my girlfriend. But the feeling here is what's important. You are in a park, you are feeling amazing, but can you notice how this is all you just feeling? When you leave this park at the end of the day, you carry that feeling with you, and that is what I want you to focus on. Are you thinking I can only feel this way as long as nobody else gets on that roller coaster, as long as nobody else appears they're enjoying something that you feel belongs to you? You see how I'm now kind of linking towards polyamory there? Of course, this park is a park meant for everybody that comes in the park, and they enjoy it all equally, or in their own individual way, essentially. And everybody will feel a different feeling, hopefully, a very good one. These parks are designed for you to have a, adrenaline rush for the day, essentially. So I somehow managed to treat people in life a little bit like an amusement park. When I am in the presence of people like that make me feel really good, nowhere in my head am I now still feeling like that person makes me feel good. I got to make sure they belong to me somehow. Like, slap a wedding ring on it, slap a jewelry on it of some sort that physically visualizes your ownership of that person in a way. That is what we seem to do as humans. And now, yes, it does immediately become a problem when that person has interest towards somebody else also. What we have now is emotions, thought, and the third thing, attachment. Now, our happiness is attached to something, and because it's a person, we're far more capable of feeling I can make this person mine. I can make sure that person never leaves, or else I'm not going to feel good. I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to become jealous, insecure. I'm going to feel like I'm losing something. This is why I gave you the story of the amusement park first, because you see, that park is not going anywhere. That park is going to continue to exist as long as they operate it. You can visit it as often as you want, and there is no feeling of attachment towards it. Mhm. So I don't know how to easily explain how to do that to people. And yet I focused on myself a lot. So I try to observe my feelings, and I try to observe when I feel something additional. How can I explain that? Think about 2, maybe 3 months ago. I might have even spoken about it in another video if I'm not mistaken. I went on a date with someone that I had literally only talked to for less than 24 hours. This was all text and whatnot. And we went to Gettysburg, the battlegrounds. Like she was a little bit of a ghost hunter and whatnot, and taking photographies of old places. Those were hobbies of hers, and we walked around. We had no plans of any kind other than just meeting. And I met this person on the Gettysburg battlegrounds. We walked around, we talked, we took pictures, we did some sightseeing. I had an amazing day. And yes, I had an amazing day with this other person. But when I left for the day, I realized I was having feelings towards this person. And that is where the problem begins for most people. I walked away. I felt the feelings clearly, and I knew it was because I had a great day with this person. But I quickly reminded myself, amusement park. I went there. I had a great time. I don't need to regret, hate, or anything about this day. It was a good day, period. I don't need to cling to this person. I don't need to become attached to this person. I can just enjoy this feeling of, I don't know if I'd fallen in love, but let's just call it that for the sake of this video. It's about emotions after all. Yes, maybe I felt some love towards this person. Then the next day we still texted and talked a little bit, and then on day 2 she completely disappeared, which is referred to as ghosting, I suppose, in the dating world. When you meet someone, you talk, and suddenly the one or both of you disappear. You just completely break contact. No explanation. That is very difficult for many of us. You had an amazing day with a person, and poof, they disappear. All you had was a phone number, so I will never suggest ghosting if you can talk to them in person. If somebody ghosts you, just accept that that person is not as interested maybe as you feel. That happens very often, and that's fine. If you feel very happy towards someone, it is fine. You just also need to realize that that person may or may not feel the same way, and if they choose to disappear, accept that, and just accept that you can actually stay in this happy feeling that you had during the day of your date. Accept that you had a great day somewhere with someone, and accept that that is your feeling only. That person did not do that to you, you did that to yourself. It's the same way in an amusement park. That park didn't make you feel anything, you made yourself feel that way by experiencing the things you experience in that park. Again, g forces, acceleration, deceleration, a couple of loops upside down. You are making yourself feel these feelings. If that sounds hard to grasp, I can just not explain to you how else that could work, but it is true. It's an illusion that seems incredibly real, that somebody else makes us feel a certain way. That is the illusion you need to focus on, and that is why I call this video observing emotions. When they come, you will unmistakably recognize them. That's just how we know we're in love. That's how we know we're sad, how we're happy, depressed, and anxious. It's a feeling. We know it, we feel it. But the next thing we do is we start thinking about that. We start rationalizing about that. Like, the good feeling slowly fades away, and now we're going to question, well, it's fading away because that person won't talk to me anymore. It's fading away because that person, just had a good day with me and another ghosting me. I can't get out of this feeling of being stuck. We humans tend to have a huge need for closure. If something very important to us suddenly disappears or dies, in this case, or ghosts, like you're being ghosted, excuse me, we cannot get closure. And I ask myself, is that closure actually necessary for me to feel good about myself again? And personally, for me, the answer is no. I now know without any doubt that if I want to feel good, that's a choice I make for myself. It's not I'll feel good if only this happens. Like this ghost person would come back and explain to me why they disappeared. If only, my grandmother hadn't died, I would feel good again. I don't do that anymore. Life is it's not a permanent thing. Life just comes with an expiration date, and the faster you can make peace with that weird fact, the easier life can become for you. That's why I tried to link the amusement park story in this video, because the park, it is essentially there longer than humans, and yet you're not always going to be in that park. You're going to be at work. You're going to be doing the mundane chores of your life that are boring, monotonous. They just need to be done, like the laundry, washing your car, cleaning your home. But regardless what you're doing in your life, you can feel any way you want. And don't you want to feel happy with yourself overall? That's something I would assume all of us would want. I like to feel happy. It's better than feeling depressed. It's better than feeling lazy or lost or confused or emotional, depressed, anxious. There is a whole list of ways you can feel, but to just feel at peace with yourself, that is incredibly rare. So there you go. I had a date a few months ago. It was an amazing day. I felt great. And I got ghosted 2 days later. Boink. I know that if I were younger, that would have been quite devastating for me, because that's what I did. I attached that feeling to something external from me, in this case, the person that ghosted me. And that is how I often got stuck with my feelings. I thought it was, I feel great because of that person, but now that that person is gone, I cannot feel great. I had to stop doing that. And I looked in that in depth until I understood what was going on. And I've been explaining it, so I'm telling you that I had linked my happy feeling to another person, and that is where attachment becomes a problem. I became attached to that person, and now my happiness was attached to that external thing. I tried to return that process to me. If I'm going to become attached to anything and feel happy because of it, would it not be much better if that thing or person was myself? A quote that I often say out loud to people is, um, the only person you will ever have to live with for your entire life is yourself. Would it therefore not make sense that working on yourself should always be your primary goal? We like to think that we choose friends that are compatible with us because we pick and choose friends with somewhat of a permanent feeling linked towards it. Like, if I don't get along with this person, I'm stuck with that person in my life. But how often have we actually turned the camera around at ourselves? Like, okay, who am I? What do I need to be happy with myself? That is what I studied really hard and in depth. What is it that I need to be happy with me. And that's the funny thing. All I need is me. I don't need to buy the next fix to feel good again. Like, I play PlayStation. Like, oh, the new Call of Duty came out. I'll feel good once I have that new Call of Duty. My car is getting old. I'm not happy with it. I'll feel good about myself again as soon as I get a new car that I like better than the one that I have now. That is the next flaw in this process. You're gonna start still linking your happiness to temporary spikes of extra happiness. You'll buy yourself little gifts. I've met women, they paint their nails frequently in a salon because it makes them feel good for a few hours. But as soon as they go back to their normal, routine, mundane, boring life, somehow these painted nails do not keep your feelings of inner happiness elevated enough to make it worthwhile. The date I just told you about was relevant because I still am in a polyamorous relation with another person, and that person did not take it well at the time that I suddenly came home feeling amazing about somebody else. The person I was in a relation felt a little sad because I suddenly spoke highly of something that was not her. But I did my best to assure the person that I was in a relation with that I am not going anywhere. I'm just going out there to have a day of fun with a new person because I have now learned it doesn't matter what kind of amazing people come in my life. I can never lose the core of who am I. That is what is different about me now. It's I can enjoy new people in my life without suddenly getting hung up on them. Yes, I will feel elated and extra happy because something new came in my life, but I'm not going to cast other things that were already in my life out. I appreciate people for who they are, but I do the same thing for myself. I appreciate who I am too. And that makes it much more difficult for new people that come in my life to suddenly take over my inner state of being. And I've witnessed that sometimes people struggle with that. They think I'm emotionless because of it. And I can understand why it would appear that way, but I don't necessarily agree with the statement that I am emotionless. It's just that I'm happy with myself first, and I enjoy things that come in my life without the promise of they're gonna stay or not stay. This is temporary. I don't know what this is. Let's just enjoy this. I don't try to judge any of it. Like, I'm happy. This person that's now here with me is also happy. Great. We're both happy. We're having a good time. I don't need to attach that happy feeling to the other person, the external person. So, observing emotions, how could we do that? Because let's face it, when do we feel emotional? We feel that way when it appears that somebody else changed our inner emotional state. Whether it is the person we feel something towards, or another person joined in and now everyone's feelings are seemingly in need of being rearranged. And I don't really know how to help with this inner rearranging process. I always remind myself, I am I. I know how I want to feel, but I cannot control how somebody else feels, even if I give them all the assurances in the world that I am not going anywhere. I am not going to stop feeling what I feel towards you, or I'm not going to start feeling different because here's something better came along. No, I like you for who you are. I like a new person for who the new person is. But I am not going to sit there and say, okay, this person is better. Now you're second, you're third. I don't do that at all. I enjoy everybody for who they are. And I usually say out loud, do not ever change who you are, not for me or anybody else. That is important because often I have seen that happening in relations. You meet someone new, and at first you overlook the little flaws that bother you about a person, but as monotony begins to set in, and the boring routines of life, like you both have to get up for work now, you both come home, have to cook dinner or vacuum the house, do the laundry, and slowly but surely you're gonna start changing each other a little bit at a time, because like, why do you always leave your dirty towels in a pile on the floor? When you were in the dating phase, the butterfly, the happy phase, that was not a problem because all your focus was on that new person. His little habits were not really of any consequence yet. But that's where it begins. Suddenly, you start to realize there are things going on that you are not necessarily okay with, and you start changing the other person. Like, can you please put your towels in like a designated laundry basket or something? I'm just making a simple example, but a single person just lives the way they live. Simple as that. Now, two single people get together, each having slightly different habits, and sometimes these habits collide, and we trying to break the other person. I mean, you could say you're gonna try to live together. Of course, you have to make some adjustments. But how much adjustment are you going to make until you realize you are becoming unhappy because you are being twerked into something that is no longer really you? That is the other thing that I have learned to do. I need to know who I am when I'm not in a relation. And I also need to know that whatever other person comes in my life, that I stay the way that I am. Now, if you were an inconsiderate jerk that couldn't care less about somebody else, that's a whole different thing on its own. I'm very considerate with myself. I like to think that I don't overexert myself. I like to just keep everything at a normal level where I can look after myself, my house, my cat, keep things tidy at a pace that's good for me. And I like to be there for people that, need someone to talk to, need someone to vent to, need another opinion than their usual friends. I try to do what I can to be there for other people. And yes, that includes their emotional thoughts and what has happened in their life that they need to vent to feel a little bit better. I don't mind being there for people that need that. So, observing our emotions, how can I now separate that from everything I've just been telling? When you feel a certain way, it is always the first thing that happens. You are going to feel an emotion, but the next process almost all of us do is we start thinking about the feeling out of sync with it. And that's where everything becomes difficult. A person makes us feel good, and we suddenly start feeling a little bit lost because maybe the person we feel good about is saying, I need some space, I need some time to myself. And suddenly we don't know what to do. It's like, shit, I did something wrong. These are the things that we start thinking, like, shoot, I did something wrong because he's pushing me away. Shoot, like, maybe I said something last week and now he suddenly feels I'm no good for him. He's pushing me away. You see, the emotion that we are feeling is love towards that person. But now that person that we love has expressed, hang on, I need some breathing room. Nothing is wrong. Just give me a couple days to myself. That's all I'm really needing right now. You see, the initial feeling is you love that person. That's it. That is the only emotion you need to observe. You feel happy towards a person, but now this person has said, give me space. Give me some time to myself. Let me come back to my senses. Let me, center myself again, which is more or less what has happened here in the last few weeks. I had my family from Europe visiting. We're talking 8 people in my house, additional people in my house. And that is not a problem. They're my family. I love them. 3 of them I didn't know. They were friends of my sister's kids. I didn't know these 3. It's fine. All of them were great. They had the time of their life. And see, that was my feeling towards my family. I'm enjoying that you guys enjoy being here. That's what I was feeling, and a feeling of enjoyment. But I am not used to having people around me 24/7, especially if it's going to be 8 of them out of the blue. This family vacation was planned, and I made sure I was gonna be here ready to receive them. Like, we got air mattresses. We even had to get a tent in my backyard because one of those kids was allergic to cats, and I have a cat. Well, I tried to accommodate my family. I tried to give them a relaxing atmosphere to feel home in. And when they left, I really had a feeling of I need to unwind. I need some me time. Like, I don't need another person around to ask me more questions, to lean their feelings on me, like, anything. I just wanted a few days to myself, a whole week maybe. And that never came because there were still people that wanted to see me right after my family left. I was on vacation, plans were made, you see, like, so it kept being delayed more and more. And now I am suddenly in a place where I'm still happy, I'm still me, I'm still fine, but I somehow feel I just need some breathing room. I just need some room where nobody is talking to me. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm not feeling anyone else's feelings or emotions. It's just me, and that's it. I'm not feeling any particular way towards anybody, not even myself. I just have this exhausted feeling, and I know myself well enough that that simply means I need a few days to myself where I don't have to think or feel or observe anything at all. And when I do that, I will just feel my feelings. Like I said, well, I haven't said this yet, but I have created a feeling of inner serenity, something like that, like an inner sanctuary where everything is always fine. And I know people around me find it very difficult that I can be fine in the middle of an argument. I'm just still fine. Like, I realize there is nothing wrong. Are we arguing? Sure. But until I take the argument personal, it cannot affect me. I can stay separate from the argument and still have the argument or what appears to be an argument. So, back to the scenario, I'm asking for some space, and then the person, or it could be several, the people that I am asking space from might take that very personal. They might think, "Wait, I love you. I want to be with you. I want to be near you. I want to be by you. Cuddle, snuggle on the couch, sleep in bed all the time." These are all fine things, but when I'm asking space, I'm not telling you that you have to give these things up. I'm just asking you to give me space. That is it. You didn't say anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm not sick of you. Like, and that becomes really difficult for people to that they suddenly feel pushed aside. That's what it feels like. I'm not pushing anybody aside. I'm simply saying I want some me time. But they feel pushed aside, and now their mind goes on a rampage. And I've already been given examples like how the mind suddenly goes, I'm being pushed away by the person I love. And the video, observing your feelings, that is it. You feel happy towards a person, love towards a person. Why do you need to let your mind go on a rampage? Like, I screwed up, I did something, I said something, I could have done something different. These thought processes have nothing to do with your feelings. This is insecurity and attachment at its best right here. It just starts talking, it will take a hike with your feelings. And that is why I said you are no longer observing your feelings. You are now thinking your feelings. And that is not something that you can naturally do. You cannot think your feelings. Your feelings happen, your emotions happen almost out of your control. But your thoughts, they should be in your control. And when you start thinking, what if, I trained myself that if my thoughts start with what if, they're immediately irrelevant. They don't exist. What if does not exist, will not exist, and has not existed ever. And yet, that is the thing we spend the most time on. All kinds of thoughts that begin with what if. What if I had said this instead of that? What if I went there with him or her instead of not going anywhere? What if there's only one thing that is going on in life, and that is always right now. Right now is the only thing that is going on in life. And what is right now? You are elsewhere because I asked you to give me space. Why can you not feel as in he asked for space? I love him. I'm just going to give him that space. When he's ready to have, people around again, he will surely say something. Okay, I know in the beginning we spoke about ghosting, but this is something else entirely. I'm loud and clear to people that I am a person that needs time to himself frequently, not because something bad happened. It's just I'm in a relation with myself too. The only person that can ever know me the best is myself. Everybody external of me, they can observe me at best, but they can never be me. Nobody can ever be you either. So if you feel you need something for yourself, don't ever be afraid to ask that, especially if you've come to know yourself so well that it is, you know what you need any given moment, and you should not feel any way when you have to ask people to step back for a few hours, a few days, maybe a week. If you need time for yourself, just take that time. And if the people you care about don't understand this, you don't have to make that your personal problem. Yes, I know you're going to feel some sort of, look, I don't want to make you feel bad. It's me, it's not you. Yes, you can do that, of course. But I myself, I have it a little bit difficult with that. Like, I know now that I have very little control of how another person feels. And when I say very little control, yes, I can give lots of reassurance. You didn't say anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. Don't worry. I will call you again when I feel better. Don't worry. After I've taken some time to myself, we will go somewhere. These are assurances that we can give, yes. But I don't need those anymore. I don't need someone to tell me I will be back for you. I will still love you after these few days. I don't need that. All I need is to know that I'm okay with myself. Foremost, before anything else, am I okay with myself? If I'm not, I need to work on me. I cannot expect other people to make me feel better. Yes, they can do that, absolutely. But again, I've said it before, the only person you have to live with all your life is always going to be you. So is it not much more, talk about investing your time anywhere. That is really what I mean. Invest time in yourself and put as much importance on it as you would in other people. I want everybody around me to be happy too. But I know I can only take care of myself. I'm sure I can allow other people to take care of me too. Everybody wants to feel like they're taken care of, me included. But I also always need to know I can take care of myself too. Very important to me. So I think 2 videos ago, I brought up at some point there is a difference between feeling your feelings and thinking your feelings. Feeling my feeling is a thoughtless process. I know how I feel in myself, and I don't have to think a single sentence about that feeling. I can just feel that feeling and let go of every other thing that is a thought. And that's why I said the other thing we do is thinking our feelings. And I've been giving examples through this video. We feel a certain way, but we think a different way, a way out of sync from our feelings. And that is when I say try and observe your feelings, that is actually it. If it's difficult to tell the difference between am I feeling this or am I thinking this, like do I think I'm sad or am I sad? And the simple trick is, if it involves thinking, you're not feeling it. That's really the only and best advice I can give you regarding how can I know I'm observing my feelings rather than thinking them. So I was going to give a couple of examples of what are examples of thinking my feelings, but I think most of this video um has already I've already gone through them several times. Is what I'm trying to say. But at the beginning, I brought up a amusement park, and maybe I can correlate thinking versus feeling your feelings to the amusement park again. When you're in the park, you're feeling an amazing day, but you're not necessarily thinking, I feel amazing because of the G force in this roller coaster. I feel amazing because it's going upside down. I feel amazing because it's taking the turns really fast. You're not thinking any of that. You are just feeling and experiencing. The moment you start thinking of why you feel these feelings is where things start to get disconnected. And it is almost, if you ask me at least, almost impossible to think your feelings and feel your feelings in sync with each other. That's the key part here, the in sync. We feel good but we think negative, or we feel bad and we think positive. It's it's important that if you're gonna think feelings altogether, that they are in sync with your actual feelings. Like you cannot feel happy and think in insecure ways, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. So um what could be another example? Anything you want to question on the video that can answer flat out? No. Okay. Well, I might get cut the video short here pretty soon because that was pretty much what I had on mind. So, observing your feelings. Oh, actually, another place where I often will observe my feelings without thinking towards them is when I go to sleep. When I'm ready to wind down for the day, I always try to drift off to a thoughtless state. And when all your thoughts are gone, what you're going to be left over with is feeling your emotions. And more often than not, it's well, almost all the time, is I'm just going to feel an inner feeling of peace. That when I feel that, I know that I am where I need to be. When I feel that inner peace. And I was actually recently asked, how can I meditate when my thoughts are running rampant? So that is indeed very difficult. I heard the guru once say that if you are actively trying to shut your mind off, it will never stop. So, how could you meditate if the mind is by default never going to stop? Don't know if I'm a good advisor on that part, but for me, it just works best if I lay still in a dark room and instead of thinking my thoughts, I'm gonna be the one observing them. So this is still different from feeling your feelings versus thinking your feelings. There's also a difference between thinking your thoughts and observing your thoughts. If you're just observing them, your feelings will not necessarily change because you're an observer. But if you are thinking your feelings, that is different. I've already said this in other videos. We can think ourselves into a depression or an anxiety constantly. That is the crazy mechanism of our mind that we are never actually trained to use correctly. I personally practice living in the now because if I'm present here and now, what does the past or the future matter at all to me? It just doesn't. The only place I can be ever is right here, right now. So if I'm going to be thinking, I almost never find a reason for it anymore because here and now doesn't require thinking. It just is. So if I'm going to start rationalizing what's happening here and now, I am already no longer in the now. I am in the past because if I'm rationalizing, that means something has happened and I now need to rationalize it. I need to figure that out. I need to think about it, justify it, whatever. As long as I'm thinking, I'm no longer in the now. And that is what I try to achieve is okay, what is it that I need to always be in the now? And I finally realized it's actually the thinking that all of us do that keeps us out of the present moment. Even if somebody says something in front of you and you have to give that statement thought, you are already thinking in the past because whatever was said in the moment. And if you're still stuck on that thinking, you're not in the moment. You have to catch up again. Crude example, but that's something you can observe for yourself. The second you think is the second you're not in the now. You're not feeling the now either. You're feeling something that's coming from your thoughts, your thoughts. So, to observe your emotions is best done to just lay still in a room and feel what you're feeling. Your thoughts, if you cannot stop them, they're running rampant. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But try to observe them instead of actively engaging with your mind. Like you have a thought, and now you're gonna rationalize that thought. Now you gotta rationalize that rationalization on top of that. This train will never stop. But when you have a random thought, you can observe that by just seeing that thought. You don't have to do anything with it. Like you don't have to hate the thought because I'm trying to quiet my mind. This thought is, invading my attempt at being quiet in my head. Not like that either. It's just I don't know. Someone said something to me today. I didn't like it. There, boom. That's a random thought. It pops in your head, and it'll probably include the exact thing that you heard. instead of taking off on that one thought, as in, well, why did he say that? Why did it, why anything at all? Just observe that thought. Somebody said something. Boop. Why do you need to go any further with that thought at all? You don't. That's what observing your thoughts is. Instead of thinking towards the initial thought, just observe that. Maybe something you can try is when you have an initial thought, instead of thinking further on that thought, repeat the initial thought several times. Not so you can, start working on it. No, just repeat it a few times. That way, a small amount of disconnect is going to slowly start happening. Instead of taking off on a thought, you're just going to acknowledge the thought. Okay, I had a thought. Repeat that thought a few times. Like, it's a way of telling your brain, okay, I heard the thought. It's here it is again. See, I heard it. So, and then the other thing that I was asked regarding meditation is, every time I lay still, my whole body starts itching. I can't keep laying still. I got to scratch my itches. And what I said to that one was, at first, yes, just scratch your itches. As you go further in that, um, I already forgot what I answered towards it. But another thing that I did at first was I physically felt something that was itching. It was trying to make me to move, and instead of moving, I would actually close my eyes and imagine that I was scratching it. So that process probably took me a year overall, but eventually I learned to just lay still, and these itches wouldn't come. There was a time I swore there is a mechanism in our body that will prevent us from laying still and finding a meditative state. Our body will constantly remind us that it's not an option. Here, have an itch. So I went through that too, and it's, give it time. At first, scratch your itches. Something that might help, instead of scratching your itches with your nails, use the flat of your palm and don't scratch it, but rub less and less hard. Because what's actually happening when you're having an itch, the fact that you are scratching it with your nail is you are causing a much bigger area to feel all sorts of sensations. So you are actually continuing the itch. It will keep on coming back every 30 seconds because you're irritating it more and more. So instead of scratching with your nails, maybe try, like I do this sometimes. I will just rub gently on an itch, and it's usually enough to alleviate the initial problem. And because I didn't scratch my skin raw, I didn't make it worse either, to continue on festering and pestering me while I'm trying to quiet my mind and keep my body in a still position. So maybe I can do a video on the future in how I meditate, because it's very simple, but I don't know how I forgot that even I struggled with this in the beginning. Like, my body didn't want to lay still. My mind just went rampant. All sorts of things seem to be suddenly present to stop me from even trying to meditate. While now it is, my whole life feels like it's meditative, because I'm not letting my emotions and the situations around me control me anymore. I am choosing to be peaceful at all times, no matter what's going on around me, and it's a state that I now take for granted. But often forget that I too had to go through a process to come to this naturally, and having some alone time for myself was actually a huge step in that process. And I know getting some alone time is not easily available for everybody. Like married people with kids. Good luck getting a 5 minutes quiet time to yourself. But it's I truly feel all of us can use that one way or another in our life. Some time where we are just alone with our thoughts, where we can just observe them, and eventually our mind is going to calm down, is going to quiet down, and our life becomes much more relaxed and meditative in a way. So that is what I did, and maybe, yes, a video on how I did that whole process and what were my personal obstacles along the way might actually help a bunch of people. So, good idea for a future video. Guys, I am going to end my video here. It's nearing an hour long, and I think I got everything off my chest regarding observing emotions, and I threw in some personal, stories slash how I go about with it. So if you like the videos, please like and subscribe. It's a huge help. I also might start posting a link soon where you can donate if that's something you want to do. Still working on that, but baby steps, baby steps. All right, guys, I will see you next week in the next video. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.